What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to go over the way we price signs. So let's get started. So this video is mainly about doing custom signs, special signs that somebody orders, logo or whatever. We're going to have at least one more video, probably a few more on how to price other types of signs, but this one is all about special signs.
So one thing to take into account, one of the factors is your situation. Everybody is in a different situation. For us, we don't want that much commission business right now because we're so busy doing other things. You guys might be totally have fixed income to where you really don't want to make much money, maybe just a little bit to buy some materials or buy a tool once in a while. Somebody else may be super hungry and they really want to build a business out of this thing, and so they want all of that, all of the orders that they can possibly get, so they're going to maybe price a little bit lower than what somebody else would price at. So your situation makes a huge difference, so take that into account.
And something else too is your area, right? So if you are, say, in the Bay Area, California, which I don't know why you'd be there, but if you're there, right, you can charge quite a bit more than somebody in Golden Valley, Arizona. So the cost of living wherever you're at is definitely something to take into account when you're pricing your signs.
Our base price is somewhere around $150 a square foot. That's as of November 2022. We're going to go through some stuff that may add to that or subtract from that, but our base price for a special custom sign, especially big stuff, is right around 150 bucks a square foot, and then it'll plus or minus from there.
So as far as the factors that add or subtract to that base price, we have 6 factors that we consider. So here they are.
Okay, so the first thing to take into account is where it all starts, is the material, the wood that you're going to use. Now, if we're using something that we have availability to, that we use all the time, say it's a piece of 1x12 pine, or it's some 2-inch redwood, which we use a lot, we don't really add on to that $150 a square foot. The only time we would add on to that from a material standpoint is if we're doing something special that the customer has requested, or we're doing a special slab, maybe a live edge slab, which we do quite a bit these days. So if that's the case, then you have to take into account the cost of that. If you're having to buy that, then you don't want to just trade dollars on that. You want to at least add 50% off. So if you've got a big live edge slab that you're paying 150 bucks for, you want to add another 50% on. So, you know, right off the bat, that's 225 bucks worth of material. And let your customers know that, and they'll understand. That's just part of the deal. But if it's regular material that you're using all the time, that you have availability, maybe you use a lot of oak or cherry or whatever that you use all the time, then that's built into that whatever your square footage is. So the next thing to take into account is if you have to glue some boards together. When we use the 2-inch redwood that we use, I normally use 2x4s and 2x6s, and if I have to edge glue those up and to make a bigger board, then it's going to be, depending on how big the sign is, anywhere from $50 and up. If it's a big, huge sign, then it'll be, you know, maybe it's going to be $150. But if it's just a small sign, it'll only be about $50 add-on to that base price of the square footage.
So one of the biggest considerations for me, because I've made this mistake before, is the amount of copy on your sign. So a good way to do it is give them a limit. Say, like, for whatever sign, up to 50 letters is all included in the base price. Anything after that can be anywhere from 50 cents to $1.50 a letter. I did a sign that had a very long Bible verse on it, and I charged them just the base price, and it took me a lot longer than I thought. I kind of lost my butt on that one.
Another factor to take into account is artwork. Maybe somebody's got a special logo. Maybe they want a picture of some kind of a special animal or whatever that you've got to go and find. I suggest you let them supply you with what they're looking for. is you want to make sure that they're looking at the same thing you're looking at. But from a price standpoint, the more difficult the artwork, the more you got to charge. So the base price for nice simple artwork, let's say it's just a silhouette, might be 25 bucks even on a bigger sign. But the more difficult and the more intricate that gets, then it's going to go up from there. It may be as much as $75 to $100, just depending on the complexity of the artwork that they're asking you to do. So if you're talking about small signs, small house signs, and somebody just wants some simple artwork on there, you may only charge, I think Ryan charges like $5 a piece for those, especially if it's artwork that you already have. That, you know, again, might be one of our templates or something like that. Nice and simple silhouette, $5-10 for something like that. No big deal.
So another factor to consider is whether or not the customer wants the sign painted. So if it's just like a small house sign and maybe there's a bear, they want it painted black, or the fire pit, you know, in a couple different colors, I'll charge per sign maybe 10 or 15 bucks, depending on what it is, but it's pretty cheap. But if it's a large complex sign and there's a lot of colors and there's a lot of intricate lines, like say for example the US Marine Corps sign we did, then I'm going to charge as a whole minimum $50. For one thing, the paint we use is pretty expensive because it's really good, and for another thing, that's a lot more time. So for that US Marine sign, I probably would have charged around $75 on top of the base price just for all that painting.
All right, another thing to take into account is the finish. And a lot of people have this question, how much do I charge extra for finish? For us, if it's just a standard finish like an indoor finish with the Rust-Oleum clear gloss, or even if I'm using the Czar and I'm spraying it on with the Critter, we don't really charge any extra for that. That's all kind of factored into that square footage price. Now, if they want epoxy finish, that's something different. They're like a resin epoxy. But if somebody wants that, you have to take into account that stuff's pretty pricey. And there's, unless you really know what you're doing, there's a high probability or possibility that it could be messed up. So I would definitely charge at least 20 bucks a square foot more on top of everything else if you're going to put a resin finish on something. So that's something to take into account. So the other thing that can affect that square footage price is if the sign that you're doing, that you're quoting, is inset versus outset. And if there's a lot of copy on there, but inset versus outset, inset is at least half the time of outset letters. So if somebody wants a quote on a sign and I know it's going to be all inset, I may even take $10 a square foot off of that $150 base price. But if it's going to be outset and there's more copy on there, then I might bump that up to $160, $170 a square foot price. So it really is subjective on whether they like inset letters or outset letters. If it's a mixture of both, I'll probably keep it right at about that $150 square foot price. At least, again, that's what we're starting out. You might be at 50 bucks a square foot. So just take that into account as well. So here are a few other things to take into account. First, packaging and shipping. That is not really what we're talking about here. What we're talking about here is probably going to be a delivery or your customer is going to pick it up. Packaging and shipping, that could be a whole separate video just in itself when it comes to especially commercial signs. So we can get into that, and if you guys have questions, you can ask, but we can get into that on a different video.
Something else is who you're selling to, right? Is this a buddy you went to high school with, or your cousin, or is this, a complete stranger, right? Or is this a commercial sign for a business? So those are things to take into consideration too. For me, when I'm doing it for friends or cousins or family or whatever, I charge double because they should want to pay me that anyway.
Well, most of them live in California, so they're used to that.
Yeah, they're used to it.
Okay, next. I have done a lot of signs literally free. Even though we're kind of upward of pretty expensive signs, I've done a lot of them for free. Why would I do that? Because I know it's going somewhere that I'm going to get a lot of foot traffic, and really kind of just using that as advertising, like advertising dollars. So if you know you're making a sign for somebody, especially if it's somebody you get along with that maybe you are already doing business with, like a restaurant or something like that, you might make them a sign for free just in order to get your name out there, put your name on the front of it, and they might be happy to get that sign. And I've talked about this many times before, but again, everybody's in a different situation. So you might make signs for free if you know you're going to get more business out of that.
Something else to consider is bulk signs, like that doctor sign or the doctor order we did. There was 14, 16 signs in there. So I gave her our base price with painting and everything, but I gave her 2 of the signs for free. Because they spent a lot of money with us to get their signs. And granted, they got a great product, but they ordered a lot. So 2 of the signs we made, 2 of the smaller ones, were free.
Another key factor that I learned the hard way is when you've got somebody that you're talking to, if you're talking to them face to face, don't ever give them a price right there on the spot, because you feel pressured. They want to know, but what you need to do is just let them know that, hey, listen, I got to go back. I have a certain way to factor all this stuff in, and I'll get back to you later today or whatever with the price, because I got to check some stuff out first. Whatever you can do not to give them a price right there on the spot, because every time you do, you're probably going to be undercutting your profit margin. And trust me, I know.
All right, and the last thing to consider is do not tell your customers your formula. They don't need to know how you came up with the price. All they want to know is this is what they want. They want to know how much you're going to charge. You don't need to tell them your square footage price, your base price, any of that stuff. Now, most of what we've gone over is for special signs, right?
Yep.
The small little house signs, I have prices on almost all of those. So that's no big deal because you can knock those out fairly quick, and a lot of times they're stock signs. But when there's a special sign somebody wants, don't tell them your price. Go home, figure it out, and then email them or call them or whatever, and you don't have to tell them how you came up with that price. All they need to know is the price.
Yep. So there you go, guys. That's kind of some basics of what we do when we're figuring out prices for special signs.
We hope you guys found this helpful. And if you have any suggestions or any comments, leave a comment down below, or you can email us, Ryan@makeawoodsign.com.
Eric@makeawoodsign.com.
And you guys, thanks so much for watching. Also, don't forget, we got the new hats on the website.
Woo! They are brown.
They are. So I'll put a link in the description below, guys. Thanks again for watching.
We love you. We'll see you on the next one. Bye.
Bye.